Is everybody here for, we'll call it ECE, but we'll talk about how that's kind of a lie. Is everybody in the right place? Yay! Well, thank you all for joining us. This is like the coolest panel. This is the coolest group of 4 people I've ever been in a room with. It says maybe more about me.
That is an exaggeration. Yeah.
No, it says more about me than it says about you guys, I think is the answer. But we're so excited to chat. We're going to try to keep like the panel to the sad introductions light, and hopefully try to get into the meat of things a little bit more. And I've been told there's a clock here, so I have to keep time. Justine Chiou, lead investment banking and in education for William Blair. So excited to talk to this group. We're supposed to talk about technology. We'll get there. But as a starting point, was hoping we could just go down the line. Tweet length introduction of what you think the mission of your organization is, and what's your purpose for existing?
Hi, I'm Kate Eberle Walker. I'm the CEO of Presence, and our mission is to empower all who serve children with diverse needs, particularly, this is the second line of the tweet, particularly special education administrators and therapists.
Embedded tweet.
Hello. Good morning. I think it's still the morning. I'm Bethlam Forsa, and I'm the CEO of Savvas. Savvas's mission is to support and help students get the education and maximize their potential for all students around the world. We do that by providing them with high quality, engaging, evidence-based instructional solution.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Ashley Andersen Zantop. I'm chairman and CEO at Cambium Learning Group. And our purpose is to help every teacher and every student feel seen, valued, and supported. And we do that by serving the K-12 education community with a scaled software and services platform that serves 29 million students, 95% of US school districts in 170 countries.
That was impressive. She did that with no hands. Good morning, I'm John Olsen, CEO at Teaching Strategies, and what we do is we provide curriculum assessment and professional development solutions and family engagement solutions to support teachers who serve children birth to age 5.
So we'll start with the elephant in the room, that a lot of folks here may not deal directly with what we technically define as ECE, despite the title. We all know, it's okay. But, you know, I think all the research is out there talks so much about the importance of foundational learning. Kind of scary that our brains all stop developing after 5, apparently. No, but it's such a crucial part of early learning. So would love to hear from John and Kate how you think about serving groups of students where the actual site of learning can be super disparate depending on where the environment is. So we'd just love to hear how you think about that.
I get to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah. So at Presence, every service we provide is remote via teletherapy. And so when we think about this, particularly for our early childhood segment, what matters the most is the adult who is in the room with the child and what they have at their hands and how our expert clinician can direct them and work with them, collaborate with them to engage the child to make sure to have a productive therapy session, productive assessment, whatever the case may be. And, you know, by thinking about it that way, we really open up so much more the ability to evaluate these children in their natural, comfortable environments, which you know, can help us get to the recognition sooner, which I think is going to have to be a theme of our conversation today, right? So much of early childhood is recognizing the needs and the differences sooner so that we can start to address them. And our feeling is what better way to do that than evaluating in their home environment.
May I ask a follow-up question? I think all of us here that sit in education worry about fidelity of implementation. I should not be the one educating my 3-year-old because I'm not very good at it. So if I were in a situation remotely where I had to be the adult in the room, how do you ensure that I'm up to speed and kind of thoughtful in the frameworks or even the task that I need to be doing?
I am so glad you asked that question. That is a frequently asked question, and I will say no one cares about fidelity more than a licensed clinician. And you know, that clinician it doesn't have to be in the room to direct everything that's going to happen in the interaction. So whether it's a parent or another caregiver or a classroom aide, you don't have to know the frameworks. You have to be able to follow direction and be willing to listen and follow the lead of the clinician, and it works surprisingly well.
Great to hear. John?
Sure. I think in the early childhood space, the real birth to 5 early childhood space, it's a slightly different model in K through 12 in that there's the funding flows in very, very different ways. And so we serve districts, we serve Head Start programs, we serve private child care, we serve family child care, which are very small programs. And in addition to that, we also serve parents. And for us, in order to be there for those children and to be there for those teachers, what we've got to do is create more productive relationships between those two groups of people. So what we do is we try to arm teachers with the solutions they need to be able to create really, really good classroom environments where children can really lead their own learning. But what we're also trying to do is we're also then trying to figure out how to create more effective engagement between both the teacher and the parent or the caring adult for that child. And so by creating better, more effective communication between those two stakeholders, I think we can get better outcomes where everyone is more aligned in what they're trying to do with every child every day. And also working with the states, that's another important part because the states have played much more of a compliancy role and a regulatory role, but they're also in a position to ensure that high quality education happens, not only through good solutions, but through facilitating the use of tools that allow for that good interaction between parent and teacher in particular.
Very helpful. And unfortunately, I think some kids don't get the resources that they need, right, and struggle at a later point in their K-12 education. There's been a lot around literacy, right, and kind of these bright benchmarks that will impact students for life and their ability to keep learning if they're not able to read the instructional material or interact with the class at the same pace. So the follow-up question is, for students that have struggled to get up the curve, right, how do you think about helping them in the most effective and candidly efficient way possible, right? And so Bethlam, would love to turn it to you, and then Ashley.
Great. It's astonishing, the damages we see coming out of the pandemic and the significant loss in learning. Those are real. Those are significant. Remember, kids who were in kindergarten when the pandemic hit, they're in upper elementary today. Kids who are in 3rd grade, including my son, are in middle school today. Do they actually have the right foundational skills to do what they need to do? We're seeing it. I see it as a parent. I see it as a CEO of an education company. It's significant. The NAEP score have spoken, and we've seen it. 2 decades worth of progress has evaporated in math and literacy. So what are we doing? This is something we very much focus on at Savvas, which is a critical element of what we do. So that there are 3 things I'm going to call out. First is we're focused on screener and diagnostic integrated assessment. That's the first thing. We do that because teachers need to understand where the kids are when they come into the classroom, the prerequisite skills. Are they ready for grade level? So that first thing is identification and giving the teachers the tool they need from a screener and diagnostic perspective. The insight. Second is data-driven insight. We provide teacher, because at the end of the day, the teachers know best how to address those shortcomings. So provide them with the insight, easy to use data-driven insight, so that they're able to see where those students are from a prerequisite skills perspective, but also continuing to administrate those in middle and end of the year. The third one is personalized learning with targeted intervention. So what I mean by that is taking in the data that's coming in, leveraging technology again, leveraging the data from the assessment, and then the assessment, the screener, which is given to all kids at the beginning of the year. Then that provides you, for those who need deeper diagnostic, they get the diagnostic, and it gives you a map at the skill level where, in terms of the need each student has, truly personalized, and then we have the technology that provides a prescriptive capability to address the lessons, the instruction, the practices, adaptive practice, and the teacher is able to ultimately use this information and prescribe it to individual students. So that is kind of how we come back. And the end result is a 360-degree view of a student's learning journey throughout the school year. That truly supports the teachers in helping them deliver what they need to do.
Wonderful. Ashley?
Yeah, our everyday is fueled by a sense of urgency for all the reasons that Bethlam described, and also because before the pandemic, we were failing to get 2/3 of students in the United States, as an example, reading on grade level by the time they got to 4th grade, which is the largest indicator of their future earnings potential that we see consistently across the board in longitudinal studies. And so that's our everyday. We don't feel like there is a one-size-fits-all answer because no two students are the same. No two students' situations or backgrounds or experiences are the same. But what is true is there's a tremendous opportunity gap in education as well as other critical sectors that are a predictor of students' future success. And so we come at the problem from multiple approaches because we know we have to be able to create a combination of tools and experiences to support the educators and the administrators who are tasked with driving student outcomes and doing the work. And so as a number of our teams like to talk about and say at Cambium Learning Group, we actively look to pair the tools that educational technology and ed tech technology provide us, things like artificial intelligence, with human intelligence, which is a tool that at a technology conference we can't overlook. That's our biggest single resource when it comes to education. And so we work hard to develop solutions that meet students where they are, that accelerate them, that meet them where they are and accelerate their outcomes based on where they individually are and need to go. We work hard to develop solutions that are flexible, that meet the individual needs of the teacher who's in the room, the person in the room who needs to be supported in the moment to do the work that's necessary. And we develop solutions that are designed to support the administrators who need to support the people in the room doing the work. And we work hard to create academic measurement and assessment that allows not only the people in the room doing the work to do the work that needs to be done, but to inform decision makers about where funding needs to be invested in order to support the outcomes that we're striving for. And that's a critical piece of this overall puzzle and ecosystem that's so important, because if we don't direct funding where it needs to go when it's needed, we can't make the progress that we need to, especially for the students who are struggling the most.
Very helpful. Let's talk teachers, because I think it's come up with every single point here. We all know the pressure on teachers. We all know how critical they are, and they're being asked constantly to do more with less. So would love to ask you all tactically how you are helping teachers when they're sitting in front of a student or many students, too many students, how you're helping them do their job better, smarter, more efficiently, in any way. And John, I'm going to start with you on this one, because in ECE, it's a place where it's especially acute. You see places where the turnover is something like 60%. There's a broad range of certification requirements, even ratios, depending on the state you're in. So would love to hear, again, kind of very tactically, how are you helping teachers do their jobs better?
Yeah, you bet. We've kind of taken more of an operations management approach to it, trying not to let technology for technology's sake kind of guide us, and I think we'd all agree that that's not the right way to think about it. And so during COVID, everybody's eyes really got open to, man, there's a lot of opportunity here. But post-COVID, when the teacher shortage really started to hit, it hit early childhood probably a little bit more quickly than it hit everybody else. And we could just see in the interactions we were having with teachers how stressed they were. So we actually did a surveyed about 2,500 teachers across all these different programs we had. Just asked them, on a scale of 1 to 7, what's your stress level? The average level was 5.7 out of 7. They were pretty stressed, right? And when we dug into why they were stressed, well, they didn't feel prepared for what they were trying to deal with in the classroom, because there were all these new traumas that were manifesting themselves as a result of what had happened at COVID. But beyond that, because of the absenteeism with the teachers, as teachers started to leave, they felt that they had to cover the other classrooms, right? Because there's still a custody thing that you got to do first and foremost. And that just exacerbated it. And then on top of that, what came from that is the interpersonal challenges that existed between the staff, because they were all in this unbelievably stressed out situation. They were just trying to make it work. And so as new people came in the classroom, new teachers came in the classroom, they figured, well, that solved the problem. It didn't. It actually, in some ways, made it worse, because most of those teachers coming in did not have any experience and didn't have any training. And that scared the heck out of us. So what we focused on was, and this is a kind of an important realization, which I think we're all kind of leaning into a little bit, is breaking down the notion that professional development is one thing and curriculum is a different thing and assessment is a different thing. Ultimately, we see what an early childhood teacher does is very much like someone who's flying a 747. And it's a very, very complex set of things you're trying to accomplish in a specific order. Well, if you're flying a modern jet aircraft, there are nudges, there are prompts, there are supports that are hitting you every single, based on what you're trying to do in that moment, right? And so what we've done is we've really started to embed all of our professional development offerings across every solution we have, as opposed to just thinking about the old spray and pray training that goes on the front end. It's not effective, and it doesn't work when you're turning over 30 to 60% of the population. And so we actually think that's very exciting, and it's actually led us to really thinking about what's the next level of support we can provide. So we started an 8-week boot camp for new teachers during the year, so that those programs who were completely onboarding new teachers who had no training, we could bring them and get them up to speed quickly. And we've seen really good effectiveness and good responsiveness from our customers as a result. You know, we just want teachers to be effective. It'd be nice if they stuck around, but if they're not going to stick around, we've got to address that issue. And so if we start to break down the traditional way of paying for curriculum, paying for assessment, and paying for professional development, which are always different revenue streams and different funding streams, and just think about it, what's the right solution? You know, I think that leads to a different way of thinking about the tools, and that's what we're trying to do.
Very cool. Bethlam, would love to hear what you're doing more on the K-12 side.
Yes, so I mean, the teacher burnout is real. It's very concerning. Today, teachers are more, you know, they feel underappreciated, overworked, overwhelmed, underpaid, and significantly demand for what they need to do. And it really is very concerning. And the latest McKinsey study shows that the turnover is actually going to increase more again this year. So we're very much focused. I mean, teachers basically join the profession and become teachers so that they can focus on teaching kids. And yet, today in a classroom and even outside, generally speaking, they spend less than 50% of the time teaching. The rest of the time, they actually have a lot of other administrative tasks and so forth they're doing. So one area we've been focused is really helping the teachers save time, right? So in terms of the burden of administrative work. So I'll give you a couple of clear examples. One is, so in terms of when they get ready for class and preparing lesson, when they put together their lesson plans. So on our platform, we have a capability called playlist sharing. So this is the ability for teachers to share basically their lesson plan with other teachers in the district and curate it together. So what this gives them is, you know, first of all, you get to work and increase collaboration, saves them time. So this has been a really popular feature that we have. The second one is, we focus heavily on interoperability. So in terms of connecting with highly used edtech tools and solution, so that, again, they don't have to go and pull everything else, making it much easier to grade. So auto grading, those kind of capabilities are embedded if they choose to use it. We've provided them with those type of capability. And last, I completely agree with you around professional development. It is so critical. And we've made it, particularly at point of use, so that they can go back. You're right, at the beginning of the year, I totally agree. So we've provided also on-demand professional development, so that whenever they have time and they want to be able to go back and look at it, to be able to have that ability to do so.
Wonderful. Oh,
I have a
please.
thought on this.
Yeah.
May I? So I really think that a lot of what teachers need is time to be self-directed, to focus, to think, to not always be reacting, right? Like these days spent in the building, you're never really self-determining your path. Something's coming up, you've got to go cover here or there. So I think we all know I'm a really big believer in remote work, but I really believe it can be done for teachers. Give teachers a work from home day, a 4-day teaching schedule, 1 day to not 4-day work week, 1 day off, but like a fifth day where they can be in a quieter mode, where they can do their work, their preparation, to reflect, to think back on the behaviors they've seen and the patterns they're seeing, what their kids might need, and to be able to come in and feel more directed for the other days on site. I just think it can be done, and it would make a huge difference for our teachers.
I would support that in our industry as well.
So Justine,
Love the idea.
I was like, love the idea.
we'll take that. Justine, I got to jump in here, and I have to ask the crowd something. So have you ever, I know that this room is the best and the brightest, and you're all amazing at what you do. Everyone here is amazing at what they're doing and is dedicated to purpose, which is why you're here. But have you ever been in a role or a situation where you didn't feel confident, where you didn't feel like you felt equipped or prepared to create a good outcome? Like suddenly you were being asked to do something that you just weren't prepared to do for whatever reason. I mean, that's the epidemic that teachers are facing. They feel that every day at a level that's not here, that's here, that's absolutely up here. If you take that feeling that you had and you magnify it by every day, every minute, that's where most of the K-12 teachers in the world currently are, and that was pre-existing before the pandemic, and the pandemic only exacerbated that. In the United States alone, over a 2.5-year period, the equivalent of all the K-12 teachers in the states of Texas, New York, California, and Georgia left the profession. Left. Of course, we've been struggling to backfill and trying to backfill. So when we think about what do we do to support educators in their roles, again, I'm sorry, but there's no one right answer. There's no silver bullet, because each person who's in that moment who feels unsupported and unconfident in the ability to deliver what is being asked of them is in a slightly different spot. So I love all of the things that this panel is talking about in terms of what we are doing and need to be doing to support teachers. And it has to be a combination of things. It has to be a big, we wrap our arms around educators, combination of things together and address that. At Cambium, we're doing a combination of things. So everything from broad, comprehensive, product agnostic professional learning for educators. We will teach you how to teach literacy based on the science of how students learn to read, so that you can confidently go into your classroom and teach students the literacy skills they need to be successful. So that's traditional product agnostic professional learning, full teacher training. Likewise, we also do embedded, just-in-time professional learning solutions. If you forgot what a phoneme is as a teacher, or maybe you never learned because you have no experience with that, you can watch a 2-minute, 10-minute, or 5-minute video on what a phoneme is embedded in the lesson that you need to deliver about phonemes, right? You can also have a customized professional development implementation that can teach you end-to-end how to use a particular tool or solution. We also now launch professional learning solutions that are targeted specifically at administrators. So administrators, how do you make a professional learning implementation successful for your teachers? Because that's another area of support. If we don't teach those of us who are responsible for those implementations how to do that effectively, we can't expect them to be sustained. So we have to come at it from all angles. We have to leverage every element of technology we can and every element of human intelligence we can to make a difference.
And I think that's what makes the world very exciting for what everyone is doing here, but also incredibly complex. And I think this is an investor-geared panel here. And I think for investors to kind of get to the point where everyone in this room is offering different content, services, capabilities, different age ranges, different selling points at a lot of time. But what you're hearing is this move towards a very solutions-oriented mindset. You can't just sell curriculum. right? You need to sell the full wraparound of how you actually get that curriculum to work. And I think that's something that a lot of folks overlook a little bit, just the sheer magnitude of the challenge. And to some extent, it's interesting to me that you all are the ones that are in the position to solve this, which in other industries would not have been the case, right, if you look at analogs. And I think that's what makes the education sector both exciting, very daunting, but also kind of an incredible place to spend time. I'm going to look at our ticking clock here. I think the other, COVID thing that we didn't quite talk about is that we realize that schools are a really critical part of our social infrastructure, right? Not only are they providing instruction, they're providing safer spaces, they're providing a safety net, they're providing nutrition to students. They're picking up a lot of the pieces where every other institution just doesn't have the ability to have eyes and ears on kids. In light of all of these things that we already knew but became quite clear in COVID, Kate, a question for you. How have you thought about your mandate changing? Have you at all, or has it remained kind of consistent?
So a big shift, there's been a lot of big shifts, right? So much has changed. But a big shift in our thinking is really recognizing, we used to think of ourselves really first and foremost as a therapy company. We're here to provide supports and solutions to help our students. We have shifted to recognizing how much more important it is to evaluate and identify the student needs. And I am very worried about the potential for us to misidentifying at these early ages the cognitive, neurological, the disabilities that will need to be addressed and that aren't happening because while they're developmentally behind because they weren't interacting in the same way in a school. I think there's a lot of opportunity to sort of mislabel things as happening because of COVID delays and thinking that, we don't need to do anything now, we can wait and see, we can watch, we can develop out of it, when the reality is there's a tremendous number of children in our school systems who have disabilities that need to be addressed. And, I was talking to a leader of an autism services company earlier today, and he declared he believes every child should receive a neuropsych evaluation. And you know what? I think he's right. I think it's right now when we have people deciding who might need one or deciding when they might need one, we're putting off really seeing for each child where they're at and what they need. So that's become a much bigger priority for us, starting before K through 12 school, which has been traditionally our big focus, right, is to come in there and support special education departments, but working at the state level with the early childhood groups who are really thinking a lot about this now and recognizing we're going to need to do something different to get the infrastructure in place and the funding in place to be able to evaluate every child.
I'm going to double click on that for a second. So front end of evaluation and also services that come in, right, therapy services. For everyone else that sits on the curricular side, right, even the sheer degree of making things text accessible, right, you think about even that smallest thing is a surprising amount of investment in capital, time, understanding, let alone all of the other pedagogical, instructional design pieces that need to run through all of your content and PD, right, to serve students that have different needs. How do you think about, anybody who wants to jump in, embedding that into everything that you're already doing?
Well, I'll take a shot at it for the early childhood. For the littles, the reality is the state mandated assessments like GOLD that we offer and others, it's providing kind of a broad-based view of what a whole child should be able to do across all the different dimensions, whether it's cognitive, physical, whatever. And so that provides one opportunity across all the people who use those tools effectively to identify children who are falling behind widely held expectations for their age. And that should then lead to a conversation which ideally presents the opportunity for intervention in the right way. But it's not consistently applied, right? And if you look at the blended and braided funding approach that exists in early childhood in particular, it's not the public schools doing all this. We have public school, which is one set of policies. We have Head Start, which is an entirely different set of policies, different funding streams. And then you have the privates, and that is the Wild West. And so there's really no clear single solution for this. But the mechanisms are there, and it strikes me that I got to talk to you after this, Kate, because there's probably a really good opportunity for us to figure out how to create better connectivity.
Yeah, I would just jump in and add to that, Justine. I think as much as possible, as you've heard from some of the other panelists, that we have to leverage the power of technology to impact the most children in the most personalized manner that we can. And so I think one of the approaches that we take when it comes to challenges like this is actively looking for ways to make our solutions adaptable. We leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to meet students where they are and accelerate them on a path that is unique to them through the solution based on what their current skill development level is. And I think the more we implement solutions that are capable of doing that, the more we increase the bandwidth of teachers in classrooms to provide the experiences that students need. And when we pair that with reporting and just-in-time data that helps educators know where students are getting stuck and where they need additional help, that only increases the productivity that educators need to create, which without that, we're basically putting an impossible ask on an educator in a classroom in terms of accelerating students of all skills and abilities forward.
Yeah, what everybody said, and just wanting to add is one size doesn't fit everyone. That's very clear. Doesn't fit anyone, really. One size doesn't fit anyone. And we all lived through a system that just was made for the bell curve, and you kind of, either you fit or you don't. Today, we have the ability to serve the content, to address different learning style, and we all learn differently. And that's where we're really continuing to invest to address that. And let's not forget, it's not just about learning differences. We also need to count for English language learners across the board and make sure we don't forget the English language learners, because we need to support that as well. So we really come at it from that perspective and leverage technology to be able to do a lot of that.
This is super helpful. In a bid to keep this room on time, we're going to go to kind of our closing statements here. We'll try to lean a little bit in, right, the theme of how do we smartly use technology, whether it is remote for very efficient delivery, but high fidelity of implementation, whether it is, right, automated, personalized learning, machine learning. John, at some point we were talking about just watching kids, right, but that comes with its own set of concerns and fears and where you invest and where you prioritize. Would love to hear if you had a magic wand, right, that you could wave. It could be a 4-day work week plus a day at home. How would you like to integrate better technology into how you think about your mission and solving the system in general, kind of just down the line, right? If you could wave a magic wand, get all of the dollar bucks in the world, and functioning systems, what is the end state that you would really love to be able to get to?
I would love to have one common behavior tracking system software that every adult, every teacher, every counselor, everyone who is interacting with the child is seeing and adding to, so that we can see the risks sooner and help everybody along the path see what needs to be done.
For me, it will be a world where children are not struggling to learn. School should be fun. Learning should be fun. And we all should feel comfortable when we're learning. So what I would really like is the capability to allow us to deliver the curriculum, the instruction in such a way that's tailored to the different learning style, so that we can all feel comfortable and lose that stress. I don't learn the same way as my colleagues here.
Yeah, I would say if I had the magic wand, like Bethlam was talking about, yes, my magic wand wish would be that we can wrap our arms around educators and administrators technologically so that they feel confident to do the work that needs to be done, and that the result of that is students feel confident in their learning journey, and that they have an opportunity, and that they have a future, and that they can see a pathway forward. From an actual technological capability perspective, I think we're closer than a magic wand would indicate, because I think we're doing the hard work. But think about what electronic medical records did for healthcare. Now, it wasn't a panacea. Tons of challenges and issues still exist. But we don't even have that in education yet, with a unique student identifier for all students. And so when we think about the ability to deliver great experiences and great services and great opportunities to students, we have to think about how do we leverage the power of AI to identify and provide the data that's necessary to people providing those experiences and those services. And I think we're close, but we have more work to do.
I would kill Twitter. It's technology, but I think what I'm really focused on, just kind of reflecting on the panel and what we've talked about, and the stress levels for teachers and how it's just getting worse. I think the thing that really scares me right now is the lack of productive relationships between teachers and caring adults and parents. And the culture war is making it worse. And I think one of the things we've got to think about when we facilitate tools that lead to conversations between teachers and parents, we have to be very mindful about how to make those productive. Because the number of, we always worry about the impact of social media on children, the impact of social media on parents, and how that is starting to come back into the education system is very, very scary, and there's no end in sight. In my previous life, I worked with charter schools and saw those parents and what they were trying to accomplish, and I'm 100% convinced that they want the exact same thing for their children that those teachers do. But there's a whole effort to drive a wedge between parents and teachers in a way, because there's a political opportunity there. Not a political statement, it's just a reality. And it's just making the situation in the classroom worse. And so I think we've got to figure out how to address that. And we have a role to do there, because I think tools can help make that happen.
Well, thank you all very much. Thank you all for the work that you do day in and day out, and all of your teams. I don't think we say that enough. We focus on so much of the road ahead, but we appreciate everything that you do. This has been an incredible conversation. I am very lucky to be in a room with you all. I don't think we have time for anything from the audience, right? Because we're already over, but we did it on time. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.